Ambassador Velthar stood before the great assembly hall, his blue skin shimmering under the soft lights. Young council members from a dozen different species sat in curved rows, their eyes fixed on him. This was the annual ceremony where elders told the old stories, the legends that shaped their civilization. Today, I will tell you about the forgotten ones, Velthar said, his voice carrying across the silent room. Some call them the mythical warriors, others simply call them the ghost race. A young Etherian in the front row leaned forward. Are they real, Ambassador? Velthar smiled gently. That is for you to decide. But the stories say they came from a world so dangerous that no civilized species should have survived there. A world of violent storms, deadly creatures, and environments that changed with brutal speed. They called it a death world. He pulled up an old image on the central display. It showed a blue and green planet. Beautiful, but somehow threatening. The legends say these beings could heal from wounds that would kill any of us. They could run for days without stopping. They felt pain but pushed through it as if it meant nothing, and in battle they never surrendered, never. What happened to them? Another student asked. They vanished, Velthar replied. 3,000 years ago, after the first expansion wars, they simply disappeared. Some say they destroyed themselves. Others believe they're still out there, watching and waiting. But most of us think they were just stories, cautionary tales about the dangers of aggression and pride. The students nodded, accepting the answer. Just another myth from the old days. Nothing more. Far across the galaxy, in a system that appeared empty on every scan and map, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the USS Defender. The ship hung in space near a blue planet that official galactic records said didn't exist. Earth. Humanity's homeworld. Hidden behind technology that made the entire Sol system invisible to the rest of the galaxy. Captain, we're picking up another broadcast from the Council networks, Lieutenant Kira Hayes said from her station. She was young, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. It's bad, sir. The Kralith Dominion just hit 3 more Etherian colonies. Jake studied the data streaming across his screen. The Kralith were a warrior race, tall and powerful, with ships that could tear through standard Council defenses like paper. For 2 months, they'd been pushing deeper into Council space and nothing seemed to stop them. How many casualties? Jake asked. Millions, Kira replied quietly. The Council's defense fleet is falling back to protect their core worlds. They're losing, Captain. Badly. Jake had been watching this conflict unfold for weeks. Every day the reports got worse. The Galactic Council, which had maintained peace for 3,000 years, was being crushed by an enemy that understood war better than they did. The Council had forgotten how to fight. They'd grown comfortable, safe, and now they were paying the price. Set a course for Earth, Jake ordered. We need to talk to the government. 4 hours later, Jake and Kira stood in the United Government Assembly Room deep beneath Earth's surface. 50 representatives from every nation on Earth sat in tiered seats, their faces showing concern and doubt. You're asking us to reveal ourselves, President Helen Brooks said. She was a stern woman in her 60s with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much to throw away 3,000 years of safety. Do you understand what that means? I do, Madam President, Jake replied. But the Council is dying out there. If the Kralith win, they won't stop. They'll keep expanding and eventually they'll find us. Our cloak won't last forever. He's right, Kira added. Our intelligence shows the Kralith are searching for resource-rich systems. It's only a matter of time before they scan this region more carefully. We can help the Council now and make allies. Or we can wait and face the Kralith alone later. A representative from Asia stood up. We hid for good reasons. Our ancestors nearly destroyed humanity with their wars. We swore never to become the monsters we once were. We're not those people anymore, Jake said firmly. We've had 3,000 years to grow, to learn, to become better. Yes, we were violent once. Yes, we scared the galaxy. But we've changed. And now others need the strength we've developed. The debate raged for hours. Some argued for continued isolation. Others insisted that humanity had a moral duty to help. Jake and Kira presented evidence, answered questions, and made their case as clearly as they could. Finally, President Brooks called for a vote. The room fell silent as the representatives entered their decisions. The holographic display in the center of the room began to fill with results. Green for yes, red for no. The numbers climbed slowly, painfully close. Jake held his breath. The final count appeared. 72% voted yes. Motion passes, President Brooks announced. We will reveal ourselves to the Galactic Council and offer military assistance. Captain Morrison, prepare your fleet. Lieutenant Hayes, draft our first contact message. Make it clear that humanity comes in peace, but we come ready to fight. Jake felt a weight settle on his shoulders. This was it. After 3 millennia of hiding, humanity would step back onto the galactic stage. They would become real again, no longer myths or legends, but living, breathing people ready to make a difference. Understood, Madam President, Jake said. We'll make you proud. As they left the assembly room, Kira looked at Jake with worry in her eyes. Do you think they'll accept us? The council, I mean. We disappeared on them. We let them think we were extinct or never existed at all. Jake considered the question carefully. I don't know, but Ambassador Velthar still tells our stories. That means something. It means we're remembered, even if just as legends. We'll have to prove we're worth trusting again. And if they reject us? Then we help them anyway, Jake said simply. Because that's what humans do. We don't abandon people who need us, even if they don't want our help at first. 24 hours later, the USS Defender and 12 other human warships gathered at the edge of the Sol system. Their sleek designs reflected old Earth military philosophy, fast and deadly, built for a species that understood war too well. Admiral Lisa Crawford's face appeared on Jake's screen from her flagship. All ships report ready, Captain Morrison, she said. The cloak is coming down in 60 seconds. Once we're visible, there's no going back. Understood, Admiral, Jake replied. Let's show the galaxy that humans aren't myths anymore. The countdown began. Jake watched the numbers fall. 10, 9, 8. On the other side of the galaxy, Ambassador Velthar was reviewing casualty reports from the latest Krith attack when his console beeped with an urgent alert. A new fleet had just appeared on long-range sensors jumping toward Council space. Unknown designs, unknown energy signatures. Velthar's hands trembled slightly as he pulled up the sensor data. The ship configurations matched nothing in the current database. But when he ran them through historical archives, he got a hit. His eyes widened in disbelief. The designs matched perfectly with 3,000-year-old records. Records from the first expansion wars. Records of a species everyone thought was extinct or imaginary. By the stars, Velthar whispered. The humans. They're real. They're actually real. The space around Haven Prime looked like chaos. Burning ships tumbled through the void, their hulls torn open by Krith weapons. The Great Council Station, a symbol of peace for 3,000 years, was under siege. Its shields flickered and failed as enemy fire pounded against them. High Chancellor Drovar watched the battle from the command center, his forearms gripping the railing in front of him. His species, the Zinthari, were known for their calm wisdom. But right now Drovar felt only fear. Fear for his people, for the Council, for everything they'd built. We need to evacuate, his military advisor said. Our defense fleet can't hold much longer. Where would we go? Drovar asked bitterly. The Krith have pushed us back on every front. There's nowhere safe anymore. A young officer suddenly shouted from her station. Sir, we have new contacts. 13 ships just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Krith reinforcements? Drovar's heart sank. No, sir. Unknown designs. They're not broadcasting any identification codes. The officer paused, her face confused. Sir, they're moving toward the Krith fleet, not us. On the main display, Drovar saw the new ships. They were smaller than the massive Krith battlecruisers, sleek and fast with a predatory look that reminded him of something. Something from the old stories his grandmother used to tell. Commander Zixkor commanded the Krith assault fleet from his flagship, the Blood Victor. He was tall even for his species, with dark red scales and eyes that burned with ambition. This battle was supposed to be his greatest victory, the destruction of the Council's capital station. Commander, we have unknown vessels approaching, his tactical officer reported. They're small, probably Council allies trying to help. Zixkor laughed. Let them come. We'll add them to the debris field. But his laughter died when the unknown ships opened fire. The weapons were different from anything Zixkor had seen. Not the standard energy beams the Council used, but solid projectiles that moved incredibly fast. Kinetic weapons, primitive by galactic standards, but fired with such precision that 3 of his destroyers lost their shields in seconds. What are those things? Zixkor demanded. Return fire. The Krith fleet turned to meet the new threat, but the unknown ships moved like they were alive. They dodged, weaved, and struck with deadly accuracy. Their tactics were aggressive, fearless, almost reckless. They flew in patterns that should have resulted in collisions but never did. "We're being cut apart," his tactical officer said, panic creeping into her voice. "They're targeting our weak points. How do they know our ship design so well?" Aboard the USS Defender, Captain Jake Morrison watched the battle unfold with cold focus. His ship shook as Kraylath fire glanced off their shields, but he didn't flinch. "Target their weapons arrays," he ordered. "Kira, send that message to the Council Station. Let them know we're here to help." Lieutenant Kira Hayes worked quickly, her fingers flying over the controls. "Message sent on all frequencies, Captain. Broadcasting in every known Council language." The message was simple. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth's United Fleet. We're here to assist the Galactic Council. Hold your fire and we'll handle the Kraylath." On Haven Prime's command center, silence fell as the message played. Every officer stared at their consoles in shock. Ambassador Veltar burst into the room, breathing hard from running. "Chancellor, you need to see this." He pulled up old records, images from 3,000 years ago, ship designs that matched the vessels currently fighting the Kraylath. It's them. The humans. The legends were real. Drovar felt his world shift. Humans. The forgotten ones. The ghost race. Stories he'd heard as a child. Tales he'd thought were made up to teach moral lessons. And now they were here, fighting for the Council like the ancient heroes from the myths. "Open a channel to their lead ship," Drovar ordered. "Now." Jake's screen flickered and he found himself looking at a four-armed alien with wise, tired eyes. "This is High Chancellor Drovar of the Galactic Council. Are you truly human?" "We are," Jake replied. "And we're sorry we've been gone so long. But we're here now and we're not letting you face this alone." "Why?" Drovar asked. "Why reveal yourselves now after all this time?" "Because you need help," Jake said simply. "And because hiding won't keep us safe forever. It's time we rejoined the galaxy." Admiral Lisa Crawford's voice came through on the command frequency. "All ships, formation Delta. Let's show them what Earth's fleet can do." The human ships moved as one, their coordination perfect. They split the Kraylath formation, forcing the enemy to divide their attention. When the Kraylath tried to reform, the humans struck from a different angle. It was like watching a pack of predators hunt a larger, slower prey. Commander Zixkor realized with growing horror that he was losing. These humans fought like nothing he'd encountered before. They took risks that should have destroyed them but somehow pulled through. They adapted to his tactics faster than he could change them. "Pull back," he ordered. "Reform at the outer marker." But the humans pressed their advantage. They didn't let the Kraylath retreat cleanly. They harried them, struck at their engines, disabled their weapons, not destroying unless necessary, but making sure the enemy understood they were beaten. Within 2 hours, the siege of Haven Prime was broken. The Kraylath fleet limped away, damaged and demoralized. The Council station was saved. Jake stood on the bridge of the USS Defender, looking at the damaged station through the view screen. Kira worked beside him, her face showing relief and exhaustion. "We did it," she said quietly. "We actually did it." "This is just the beginning," Jake replied. "The Kraylath won't give up. They'll regroup and come back stronger." A message came through from Chancellor Drovar. "Captain Morrison, I'm inviting you and your officers to Haven Prime. We have much to discuss." 6 hours later, Jake and Admiral Crawford walked through the corridors of Haven Prime Station. Aliens of every species stopped to stare at them. Some looked frightened. Others seemed amazed. A few appeared hopeful. They entered the council chamber, a massive circular room where representatives from 50 different species waited. Jake felt the weight of their stares. After 3,000 years, humans were standing before the Galactic Council again. Chancellor Drovar stood at the center podium. "Captain Morrison, Admiral Crawford, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for your assistance today. You saved countless lives." "We were honored to help," Jake replied, "but I must ask," Drovar continued, "why did you leave? 3,000 years ago, humanity fought in the first expansion wars, and then you vanished. We searched for your homeworld but found nothing. Many of us came to believe you were never real at all." Admiral Crawford stepped forward. "We left because we were dangerous, Chancellor. Our species had just finished fighting terrible wars among ourselves. We'd nearly destroyed our own planet. When we encountered the galaxy, we brought that violence with us. We scared you, and honestly, we scared ourselves. So we made a choice," Jake added. "We cloaked our system and hid. We spent 3,000 years growing up, learning to be better. We're not the same humans who fought in the expansion wars. We've changed. But you still know how to fight, Velthar observed from his seat. Yes, Jake admitted. We remember how. We just learned when and why to use that knowledge. And right now the Council needs people who understand war. Drovar was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. The Kralith Dominion won't stop with today's defeat. They'll come back, and we're not prepared to face them alone. Would humanity be willing to help us, not just in one battle, but in the war to come? Jake looked at Admiral Crawford. She nodded. He turned back to the Chancellor. We're ready to fight, Jake said. We're ready to stand with you. That's why we revealed ourselves. Not to conquer or to rule, but to protect. Let us help you end this war. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species were excited. Others were nervous. But slowly, one by one, the representatives began to vote. When the count finished, the result was clear. Humanity would join the Galactic Council's war effort. As Jake and the Admiral left the chamber, Velthar caught up with them. I used to tell stories about your people, he said. I thought they were just legends. I never imagined I'd meet real humans. What do you think now? Jake asked. Velthar smiled. I think the legends didn't do you justice. Welcome back to the galaxy, humans. We've missed you. The moon base on Viridian 7 had seen better days. Its walls were scarred from the Kralith attack that drove out the Council forces 3 weeks ago. But now the Council flag flew again, alongside a new banner that showed a blue planet with white clouds. Earth's flag, humanity's flag. Colonel Paul Henderson walked through the command center, checking on his troops and their alien allies. He'd been awake for 46 hours straight, coordinating defenses and training exercises, but he showed no signs of stopping. His council counterparts had given up asking him to rest. How does he do it? A young Etherian officer asked Lieutenant Kira Hayes. No one can function that long without sleep. Kira smiled slightly. Humans are persistence hunters. Our ancestors chased prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We're built for endurance. The Etherian looked amazed and a little frightened. In the medical bay, Dr. Nina Grant worked alongside council healers, sharing human medical knowledge. On the table between them lay detailed scans of human biology. The alien doctor studied the images with fascination. Your blood clots so quickly, healer Eshivara said. She was a Lumerian, her skin glowing softly with bioluminescence. And these redundant systems. You have 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, can survive with portions of your liver removed. Why so much redundancy? Our planet didn't forgive mistakes, Nina explained. Humans who couldn't survive injuries didn't pass on their genes. Over millions of years, we evolved to be tough. Really tough. She pulled up another scan. See this? A human can lose up to 40% of their blood and still fight. We can function with broken bones, torn muscles, even with organs failing. Our brains release chemicals that let us push through pain that would make other species pass out. It's incredible, Eshivara said quietly, and terrifying. You're like living weapons. We prefer to think of ourselves as survivors, Nina replied gently. But yes, we're hard to kill. That's kept humanity alive through some very dark times. Across the base, Ambassador Velthar sat with Captain Jake Morrison in the command office. Between them lay old data files, records from 3,000 years ago that Velthar had spent weeks recovering from deep archives. I need to show you something, Velthar said, his voice heavy. Something the Council has kept hidden for a very long time. He activated a holo display. Images appeared showing Council debates from the ancient past. Velthar translated as they watched. This is from just after the first expansion wars, he explained. The Council voted on what to do about humanity. Some members wanted to welcome you fully. Others were afraid. Very afraid. Jake watched as the ancient Council members argued. One speaker, a species long extinct, spoke with passion. The humans fight wars unlike anything we understand. They don't stop when losing. They don't negotiate when cornered. They burn their own worlds rather than surrender them. How can we live in peace with such beings? The vote was close, Velthar continued. But those who feared humanity won. The Council sent a delegation to Earth offering friendship, but secretly they also sent ships to map your system. When humanity suddenly vanished behind your cloak, many Council members were relieved. Some even suspected they'd helped you want to hide. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. They made us afraid of ourselves. Made us think we were monsters who didn't deserve to be part of the galaxy. Perhaps, Velthar agreed. Or perhaps humanity needed that time to grow. I don't know. But I thought you should know the truth. Not all of your isolation was by choice. Before Jake could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. Colonel Henderson's voice boomed over the speakers. All personnel to battle stations. We have Krith signatures inbound. This isn't a raid. It's an assault force. Jake ran to the command center with Velthar close behind. The tactical display showed 30 Krith ships approaching fast. Leading them was a strike team of their best warriors, heading straight for the base's weakest point. They're going for the south wall, Henderson said, already coordinating defenses. They want prisoners for interrogation. Specifically, they want humans. How do you know that? Velthar asked. Because that's what I'd do, Henderson replied grimly. Study your enemy. Learn their weaknesses. Captain, you should evacuate. You're too valuable to risk. Not happening, Colonel, Jake said. I didn't come here to hide in a bunker. The Krith strike team hit the south wall with explosive force. Warrior Prime Takshir led his soldiers through the breach, his massive form crushing aside defensive barriers. He'd studied the human tactics, watched their battle recordings, and developed a plan. Humans were tough, yes, but they were also small compared to Krith warriors. They could be overpowered with raw strength if you were fast enough. Find me a human, Takshir commanded. Alive. General Crixton wants specimens. His team spread through the corridors, engaging human and council defenders. The humans fought with skill and determination, but Takshir's warriors were specifically prepared for their tactics. They used heavy armor to absorb the kinetic rounds humans favored. They worked in tight groups to prevent the humans from using their superior mobility. Jake led a defense team toward the breach. He carried a standard human rifle and wore combat armor that was lighter than what most species used. Kira and 5 other soldiers moved with him, their movements coordinated through long practice. They turned a corner and came face to face with Takshir. The Krith warrior was huge, nearly 8 feet tall with armor that made him look like a walking tank. He raised his weapon, but Jake was faster. Human reflexes, honed by a Death World evolution, gave him the split-second advantage he needed. Jake's shot hit Takshir's weapon, damaging it enough to make it useless. But the Krith warrior simply dropped it and charged. The impact sent Jake flying backward. His armor cracked and pain exploded through his ribs. Broken, definitely broken. He heard Kira screaming his name, heard gunfire as his team engaged the other Krith warriors. Takshir grabbed Jake before he could recover. You're coming with me, human. You're going to tell us your secrets. Jake coughed, tasting blood. The pain in his chest was incredible, but that old human stubbornness kicked in. The same stubbornness that made his ancestors chase prey for days. The same refusal to quit that defined humanity. Sorry, Jake gasped. I'm not good at following orders. He pulled a small device from his belt and pressed it against Takshir's armor. The electromagnetic pulse fried the Krith's armor systems, making it dead weight. Takshir stumbled, suddenly carrying 200 extra pounds of useless metal. Jake rolled away, still clutching his broken ribs. Kira and the others opened fire, forcing Takshir to retreat behind cover. But the Krith warrior watched Jake with new respect. The human had been hurt, badly hurt, but he'd still fought back, still thought tactically, still refused to give up. Colonel Henderson arrived with reinforcements, and the Krith strike team retreated to their ships. They'd failed to capture any humans, and they'd learned a terrifying lesson. Humans didn't stop fighting just because they were injured. Pain was something they fought through, not something that stopped them. In the medical bay, Dr. Grant worked on Jake's injuries. 3 broken ribs, internal bruising, and a minor concussion. Eshvara watched as Nina treated him. He should be unconscious from pain, the Lumerian healer said. How is he still talking? Because I need to debrief my team, Jake said through gritted teeth. The Krith tried something new. We need to adapt. You need to rest, Nina said firmly, injecting him with medication. I'll rest when the war's over, Jake replied, but his eyes were already closing. The medication was strong enough to overcome even human stubbornness. Eshvara looked at Nina with wonder. Your people really are different from anything I've known. That level of determination, that refusal to stop. It's like you're programmed to never give up. Not programmed, Nina said softly, checking Jake's vital signs. Evolved, shaped by a world that demanded strength or death. We're not better than other species, Eshvara. We're just adapted for survival in ways most beings can't understand. And that's why you're winning this war, Eshvara said. No, Nina replied. We're winning because we're fighting together. Humans bring strength and stubbornness. You bring wisdom and compassion. The Council brings unity and hope. Together we're stronger than any of us alone. In his command ship far from Viridian 7, General Crixton reviewed the battle reports. Warrior Prime Tuck-Shear stood before him, his armor still damaged from the fight. The humans are as dangerous as the old records suggested, Tuck-Shear reported, perhaps more so. They function through injuries that would kill our warriors. Their pain tolerance is beyond anything natural. Crixton studied the recordings of Jake Morrison fighting with broken ribs. They're from a death world.
Pain is their constant companion.
They've learned to ignore it, work through it, even use it to fuel their determination. How do we fight beings like that? Tuck-Shear asked. We find Earth, Crixton said coldly. We destroy their homeworld and we break their spirit. Even humans must have a breaking point. We just need to push hard enough to find it. The war had been going well for the Council. Too well, Admiral Lisa Crawford thought as she studied the strategic maps in her ready room. For 6 weeks, the combined human and Council forces had pushed the Krith back system after system. The enemy retreated, regrouped, and retreated again. It didn't feel right. The Krith were warriors. They didn't run unless they had a reason. Admiral, we're receiving multiple distress calls, her communications officer reported. It's coming from Council worlds across the Eastern Front. The Krith are launching coordinated strikes on civilian targets. Lisa's jaw tightened. Show me. The tactical display lit up with red markers. Dozens of them. The Krith had split their forces and hit soft targets all at once, spreading the human Council fleet too thin to respond everywhere. It's a distraction, Lisa realized. But a distraction from what? Her answer came 30 seconds later when long-range sensors detected a massive Krith fleet moving through an uncharted corridor. They weren't heading toward the front lines. They were heading toward deep space, toward regions that supposedly had nothing valuable, toward Earth's hidden location. Sound the alarm, Lisa ordered. Get me Captain Morrison and Chancellor Drovar. The Krith found Earth. On the colony world of New Athens, Sergeant Danny Price led his squad through the burning streets. The Krith had hit the capital city 2 hours ago, and the local defense forces were overwhelmed. Danny's team had been on leave when the attack started, and now they were the only trained combat unit in the sector. Sarge, we've got civilians trapped in that building, Private Kelly Chen shouted over the sound of explosions. The whole structure's coming down. Danny didn't hesitate. Mitchell Rodriguez, you're with me. Chen, coordinate with local forces and get those people out. They ran into the collapsing building as debris fell around them. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to see or breathe. Most species would have turned back, but humans had evolved to function in hostile environments. They pushed forward. Inside, they found 20 Etherean families huddled in a basement. The adults were protecting their young, terrified but determined. Danny's translator chip worked to communicate. We're here to help, he said. Follow us. Stay close. The building is falling apart, one Etherean said. We'll never make it. Yes, we will, Danny replied firmly. I haven't lost anyone yet, and I'm not starting today. They moved through the collapsing structure, Danny and his team using their bodies to shield the civilians from falling debris. A support beam crashed down and Danny caught it, his muscles straining as he held it up long enough for the Ethereans to pass underneath. Go, 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 he shouted. Private Rodriguez saw a section of floor give way just as a child stepped toward it. He lunged forward, grabbing the small Etherean and rolling away as the floor collapsed into flames below. His arm was burned badly, but he didn't let go of the child until they were safe. They made it outside just as the building came down completely. The Ethereans stared at the human soldiers in amazement. These beings had risked their lives, suffered injuries, all to save strangers. One of the children approached Danny and touched his hand gently. Thank you, the child said in broken English. You're like the heroes from the stories. Danny managed a tired smile. We're just doing our job, kid. Stay safe. News of Danny's rescue spread across Council space faster than any official communication. The image of human soldiers carrying Etherean children to safety became a symbol. Yes, humans were fierce warriors, but they were also protectors. They had compassion that matched their strength. On Haven Prime Station, Lieutenant Kira Hayes worked with Council intelligence, piecing together how the Krith had found Earth. What she discovered made her blood run cold. They've been tracking our supply lines, she explained to Captain Jake Morrison. who was still recovering from his injuries on Viridian 7. Every time a human ship moved between Earth and the front lines, they gathered data. Small bits of information that didn't mean anything alone, but together, they pointed to a general region. And now they're sending their whole fleet, Jake said, trying to stand up from the medical bed. His ribs were healing but still hurt. I need to get back to Earth. You're in no condition to fight, Dr. Nina Grant protested. My planet is under attack, Jake replied. I'll be in whatever condition I need to be. He looked at Kira. How long until the Krayth reach Earth? 18 hours, maybe 20. Admiral Crawford is already heading back with the main fleet, but she's 30 hours away at best. Then Earth's home defense fleet will have to hold, Jake said. They're good, but they've never faced a full Krayth assault force. Ambassador Velthar entered the medical bay, his face grave. Chancellor Drovar is mobilizing every available council ship to help defend Earth. We owe humanity a debt, and we intend to repay it. You might be sending your people to die, Jake said quietly. That's what allies do, Velthar replied. They stand together even when it's dangerous. Especially when it's dangerous. You taught us that. In the Sol system, Colonel Paul Henderson coordinated Earth's defense from the military headquarters in Geneva. The home fleet was good, well-trained and well-equipped, but they'd never fought a real war. Most of their crews had been born after humanity went into hiding. Sir, Krayth fleet just entered the system, a sensor officer reported. Count as 73 heavy cruisers plus support vessels. They're heading straight for Earth. Paul studied the tactical display, 73 ships against Earth's 35. Not good odds, but humans had faced worse. Their history was full of desperate battles where they'd been outnumbered and somehow pulled through. Launch all fighters, he ordered. Deploy the orbital defense platforms. And get me a line to every ship captain. It's time to remind the Krayth why humans scared the galaxy 3,000 years ago. General Crixton watched Earth grow larger on his view screen. The planet was beautiful. Swirls of blue and white, so much water and life. It seemed wrong that such a dangerous species came from such a pleasant world. Begin the assault, he commanded. Target their orbital stations first. I want Earth defenseless. The Krayth fleet opened fire, and the space around Earth erupted into a battle unlike anything the Sol system had seen in 3 millennia. Human ships fought with desperate courage, their crews pushing their vessels beyond safe limits. Pilots flew fighters in patterns that risked collision, but maximized damage to enemy ships. On Earth's surface, billions of humans watched the battle unfold in their skies. They saw their defenders fighting, saw ships burning and exploding. Some were afraid, but most felt something else. Pride, determination, the same stubbornness that had carried humanity through ice ages and plagues and world wars. In New York, Paris, Tokyo, Lagos, Rio, and 1,000 other cities, people volunteered to help however they could. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Engineers worked on backup defense systems. Even children wrote messages of support to the fleet crews. Healer Eshavara stood in Haven Prime's command center, watching the battle broadcasts, with tears glowing on her luminescent face. They're going to lose, she whispered. There are too many Krayth ships. Maybe, Chancellor Drovar said beside her. But humans don't measure victory the way we do. For them, fighting to the last ship, the last soldier, the last breath, that's victory too. They'll make the Krayth pay for every meter of space, every second of time. And when Admiral Crawford arrives with reinforcements, the Krayth will find themselves trapped. If anyone survives that long, Eshavara said. They will, Drovar replied with certainty, because they're human. And humans, as we're learning, are very hard to kill. Above Earth, Colonel Henderson's flagship, the Vigilant, took heavy fire. The shields were failing and fires burned in 3 decks. But the ship kept fighting, kept moving, kept firing at every Krayth vessel in range. Sir, we've lost main power, his engineering officer reported. Switching to backup systems. Keep us in the fight, Paul ordered. The Admiral is coming. We just need to hold a little longer. A massive explosion rocked the ship as a Krayth torpedo broke through the weakened shields. Paul was thrown against the wall, felt something in his shoulder break. Pain shot through him bright and sharp. He stood up anyway, cradling his injured arm. Damage report. Hull breach on deck 7. Casualties are heavy, sir. Seal it off and keep firing. His crew looked at him with awe and determination. Their commander was hurt, probably should be in medical, but he stood on the bridge anyway. If he could keep fighting, so could they. That was the human way. That was what made them special. Not that they couldn't feel pain or fear, but that they felt it and fought anyway. General Crixton frowned as his tactical officer gave him the latest reports. "Sir, we've destroyed 15 Earth ships, but we've lost 28 of our own. The humans are fighting harder than anticipated. Every ship we destroy takes 3 of ours with it. Press the attack," Crixton ordered. "We're committed now. Earth must fall." But even as he gave the order, his sensors detected new signatures entering the system. Big signatures. Admiral Crawford's fleet had arrived early, having pushed their engines beyond safe limits to get here faster, and they weren't alone. Behind the human fleet came council ships, dozens of them, species from across the galaxy, coming to defend humanity's homeworld. Admiral Lisa Crawford stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Liberty, as it emerged from hyperspace into the Sol system. What she saw made her heart clench with fear and pride. Earth's defense fleet was battered but still fighting. Burning ships drifted through space, but the survivors fought on with a determination that defined humanity. "All ships, attack pattern Omega," Lisa commanded. "We're ending this now." The combined human and council fleet crashed into the Krith formation like a hammer. Ships from a dozen species fought side by side, their different tactics blending into something beautiful and deadly. The Etherians provided long-range support. The Lumerian vessels used their advanced shields to protect damaged allies, and the humans pressed forward with relentless aggression. General Crixton watched his perfect assault fall apart. He'd planned everything, studied human tactics, brought overwhelming force. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd thought of humans as individuals, as single warriors to be defeated. He hadn't understood that humans were pack animals who formed bonds across species lines. When you hurt a human's friend, you made an enemy of every human. When you attacked humanity's home, you made enemies of everyone who called humans their allies. "Sir, we're being surrounded," his tactical officer reported. "Casualties are at 60%. We need to retreat." Crixton's pride warred with his tactical sense. Retreat meant admitting defeat. But staying meant losing his entire fleet. He was about to give the order to withdraw when his sensors detected something new. A small strike force was heading directly for his flagship. Leading it was a ship he recognized. The USS Defender, Captain Jake Morrison's vessel. "He's coming for me," Crixton realized. "The human commander wants to face me directly." Jake knew he probably shouldn't be here. His ribs weren't fully healed. Dr. Grant had threatened to sedate him if he tried to leave medical. But Kira had helped him slip away, and now he led a boarding team toward the Krith flagship. "Captain, this is crazy even by human standards," Lieutenant Tony Clark said from the pilot seat. "That ship has 3,000 warriors on board." "Then we'll just have to be very convincing," Jake replied, checking his weapons. The boarding craft latched onto the Krith flagship's hull. Jake's team cut through, and they dropped into a corridor full of surprised enemy soldiers. The fight was immediate and brutal. Humans moved fast, using their smaller size and agility to dodge the Krith's powerful strikes while landing precise shots. They pushed deeper into the ship, fighting through every corridor. Jake's team took casualties. Corporal Myers was hit and couldn't continue. Sergeant Lane stayed behind to protect him. But the others pushed on because that's what humans did. They finished the mission. Commander Zixcor watched the battle from his station aboard his own vessel. He'd served under General Crixton for 15 years, had followed his orders without question. But watching this war unfold had changed him. The humans fought with courage, yes, but also with purpose. They protected the weak. They saved lives. They made allies instead of slaves. The Krith Dominion conquered. Humans defended. Which philosophy was really stronger? "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," his communications officer said. "It's from the Council. They're offering us terms of surrender." Zixcor read the terms. They were generous, far more than the Dominion would have offered defeated enemies. Council membership for those who wanted peace. Autonomy for Krith worlds. No executions, no slavery, no punishment beyond disarmament. "They're offering us a future," Zixcor said quietly. "Something better than endless war." He thought about his own children growing up in a society that valued only strength. What kind of galaxy would they inherit if the Dominion won? More war, more death, more fear. He made his decision. Jake and his team reached the flagship's bridge. The doors burst open and they rushed in with weapons ready. General Crixton stood at the center, his own guards surrounding him. For a moment, both sides simply stared at each other. You came yourself, Crixton said to Jake. I'm honored. This ends now, Jake replied. Order your fleet to stand down, or what? You'll kill me. I have 50 guards. You have 6 soldiers. Jake smiled grimly. I have 6 humans. That's enough. The truth of that statement hung in the air. Crick's Corps had seen the battle recordings. He knew what humans could do when pushed. They'd fight through injuries. They'd sacrifice themselves to complete missions. They'd turn impossible odds into victories through sheer stubborn will. Why do you fight so hard? Crixton asked. Why risk everything for species you barely know? Because it's the right thing to do, Jake answered simply. Because we learned the hard way that strength without purpose is just violence. Because we're not alone in this galaxy, and that means we have responsibility to others. Before Crixton could respond, alarms blared throughout his ship. His tactical officer's voice came over the comm. General, Commander Zixcor's fleet is breaking away. They're surrendering to the Council. Crixton felt his grand vision crumble. His own subordinate had betrayed him. More than half the Krayth fleet was following Zixcor's example, powering down weapons and accepting Council terms. It's over, Jake said. You've lost. But it doesn't have to end in death. Surrender and help us build something better. Crixton looked around his bridge. His guards watched him, waiting for orders. But he saw doubt in their eyes now. They'd fought bravely, but they were tired of war. Tired of losing. Ready for something different. I underestimated you, Crixton admitted. All of you. Humans, Council species, everyone. I thought peace made you weak. But I see now that peace gave you something worth fighting for. Purpose, unity, hope. He lowered his weapon. I surrender. The Battle of Sol ended not with a dramatic explosion, but with tired soldiers on both sides standing down. The Krayth fleet withdrew to designated areas. Medical ships from every species moved through the battlefield, helping wounded regardless of which side they'd fought for. Colonel Paul Henderson, his arm in a sling, coordinated recovery efforts from Earth's surface. He watched as human and Krayth crews worked together to rescue survivors from damaged ships. This is strange, his aide said. Yesterday they were trying to kill us. Today we're saving each other. That's how wars should end, Paul replied, with everyone remembering they're all just people trying to survive. 3 days later, Chancellor Drovar convened a special session of the Galactic Council in Earth's orbit. Representatives from every member species attended, along with delegations from the former Krayth Dominion. The massive assembly station they used was built hastily, but it served its purpose. Today marks a new era, Drovar announced. For 3,000 years, the Council believed humans were extinct or mythical. We were wrong. Humanity survived, grew, and returned when we needed them most. He gestured to Jake Morrison and Admiral Crawford, who stood before the assembly. Captain Morrison, Admiral Crawford, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally invite humanity to join as full members, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. We accept, Jake said, with honor and gratitude. But we propose something more, Admiral Crawford added. For too long, the Council has relied on peace maintained through weakness. That didn't work when real threats emerged. We propose creating a joint defense force with members from every species, trained in both protection and restraint. Ambassador Velthar stood up. I support this proposal. Let humanity teach us strength and let us teach them wisdom. Together we can defend the galaxy without becoming conquerors. The vote was overwhelming. The new Galactic Defense Initiative would be led jointly by human and Council commanders. Its purpose would be clear: protect the peaceful, defend the weak, and ensure no species ever had to stand alone against threats. Commander Zixcor, now representing the reformed Krayth government, spoke to the assembly. My people followed strength because we knew nothing else. Humans showed us that true strength includes compassion, that the mightiest warriors can also be the gentlest protectors. We ask permission to join this initiative, to learn from our former enemies and become better than we were. Granted, Drovar said. All who seek peace are welcome. Months later, Jake stood on a hillside overlooking Geneva, watching the sun set over Earth's lakes and mountains. Kira joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thinking about everything that's changed? She asked. Yeah, Jake replied. 6 months ago, humanity was hiding. Now we're training soldiers from 40 different species. The galaxy knows we exist, knows we're here to stay. Any regrets? Jake shook his head. None. We were right to come out of hiding.
The galaxy needed us, and honestly, we needed it too.
3,000 years of isolation was long enough. The history books are being rewritten, Kira said. The truth about the first expansion wars, about why we really left. Some people aren't happy we were manipulated. Can't change the past, Jake said. But we can build a better future. That's what matters. They watched as a council transport ship descended toward the training facility below. More volunteers coming to learn from Earth's defenders. Humans teaching aliens how to fight. Aliens teaching humans new ways to think. Different species working together toward common goals. To them, we were only a myth, Kira said softly, until we joined the conflict. And now we're part of their story.